Hey kids, Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. A couple of weeks ago, I was lucky enough to ride the new for 2025 Triumph Speed Twin 1200. I really like that bike because I'm an ex-Speed Twin owner. Well, today I'm on its slightly blingier, slightly sportier, slightly more expensive brother, the Speed Twin RS. And the question I'm attempting to answer is it worth the extra money? So stick around and stay tuned. Let's do a bit of a comparison. Okay folks, welcome back to the channel and another bike review. Slightly different to my normal reviews because I am, in this case, doing, as I say, a direct comparison between the standard Speed Twin 1200 and this, the RS that I'm riding today. Before we get into how the bikes ride, let's go back to the garage, have a look over the bikes and check out what the differences between the two bikes are and what £2,000 extra gets you on the Speed Twin RS. Okay, welcome back to my garage, folks, where we're going to have a look over the two bikes and do a bit of a comparison. I must start with a slight apology, though. Sorry about all the IKEA flat pack stuff around. My daughter's been buying stuff, and, well, it has to go in the garage, doesn't it? So there we go. Anyway, so to the comparison of the bikes, and what are the differences between these two bikes? The orange one is the RS, and the red one is the standard Speed Twin. Okie dokie. So there are quite a few differences on this. So I've written them down because I don't want to miss anything. There are a few bits and pieces that I've spotted about the bikes as well that I haven't seen written anywhere else. So you want to tune into this. So the first thing is brakes. On the RS, you get these Brembo calipers, whereas on the standard bike, you get these Triumph badged calipers. I don't know who actually makes them, but they've got a Triumph badge on as opposed to a Brembo one. So they you know, those are top spec. And then if you look at the top of this as well, you also get a Brembo master cylinder on the RS, whereas on the standard bike, you don't get a Brembo master cylinder. All right, so that's one obvious thing. Next obvious thing, if you come around to the back of the bike, stepping over all the boxes, we can see here on the rear of the RS, we've got Öhlins suspension and it's adjustable. We've got the adjuster on the reservoirs there. And then on the back of the standard bike, we've got Marzocchi, I'm told. It's not Marzocchi, you never say ch, apparently, in this case, in Italian. But you've got Marzocchi rear shocks on the standard bike. And on the front one, you've got Marzocchi forks, no adjustment on the top. On the RS, these are Marzocchi forks on the front. But as you can see, I hope, they are fully adjustable at the top there as well. So difference in the suspension is a big difference. Something obvious while I'm stood up here, paint jobs. On the RS you can get that Baja orange, which I think looks nice, or you can get a lovely black scheme, so slightly different colour schemes. As far as the graphics are concerned, you know what, looking at them both together, and this is a subjective point, but I think I might prefer the red bike in terms of the looks. I'm not sure about the big 1200 written on the tank, but I think the red bike looks better than the Baja orange side by side. Interesting, there's slightly different decals on here as well. Look, on the standard bike it just says Speed Twin. On the RS it says Speed Twin 1200. Isn't that strange? Anyway, these little things amuse me. Next up, of course, is price, which is the big difference. The RS comes in at 14,695, the standard bike 12,695, so £2,000 in it. Now, something Triumph made big play on when they launched these bikes is that the RS has a much more sporty riding position. The handlebars are a bit lower, the rear end is jacked up slightly differently, the foot pegs are slightly set more backwards. Now, I have to take Triumph's word for this, because I have to say, when you sit on them, I haven't noticed any differences. We'll go through that in the ride in a minute, but in terms of, you know, the more sporty riding position, I can't see any difference on the bikes, although obviously I take it as read that Triumph aren't lying about that. One of the little things I've noticed that I haven't read anywhere else is on the RS, you get the brushed aluminium front mudguard, like you used to get on the old Speed Twin, like I had. On this one, you don't. It's a plastic mudguard. Now the difference is in the tyres. This is the RS, and this has more sporty tyres, as you might expect. So this on here are Metzeler Racetech K3s, whereas on the standard bike, you get Metzlers again, but these are M9 RRs. Whether I'm good enough to notice the difference, I don't know. We'll find out in a minute when we do the ride. Right, if I squeeze down this side, a big difference on the RS over the standard bike is down here at the gear lever. As you can see, tucked in there, we've got a quick shifter. This is both an up and down quick shifter, which is a great thing as far as I'm concerned, because this is a bike that demands a quick shifter. So very pleased about that. It's not something that you can retrofit, in fact, and that's partly why they've got the rear set foot pegs on here. You can't put a quick shifter onto the standard bike if you want that, and that's a big bonus on the RS as far as I'm concerned. Right, and last but not least, if you look at the RS, the seat here, it's got this sort of suede-y portion on it, whereas on the standard bike, is just vinyl all around. Whether that makes much difference, I don't know. But there we go, that's another difference. All right, so much for the changes on paper and otherwise. Let's go and do a back-to-back ride on them, see how they compare. Okay, to start with, let's have a ride out on the standard speed twin then, just to sort of reset my baseline and remind me exactly how this bike feels. And I'm just going to focus, obviously, on those key differences between the bikes. Now, if you didn't see my first ride review of the standard speed twin and you want to know about the specs and so on the bike, go back and check that video out, because I do talk about the specs and all that kind of stuff there. And there's no difference on the engines of the bike, so in that respect the bikes are very similar. So really here I'm focusing on what their ride position is like, what the suspension's like, what the brakes are like, because those are the sort of key differences, if you like. So let's start off actually with the brakes. There's nothing behind me. I have to say the brakes on here, they are badged Triumph calipers. I don't know if it's actually them that make them or whether they are made by somebody else, but they feel absolutely fine. And they've got a nice feel about them. They're nice and progressive. And they do a fine job of stopping you. I don't feel like I need more brake than it's got. Now of course the RS has got that Brembo master cylinder, and we'll see if that makes any difference in a minute, but yeah, you can tell what they're doing. The ABS cuts in relatively readily on here. Let's do it right here, because this is a really bumpy road. It'll be a good chance to test that suspension out. So this is the non-adjustable Marzocchi, and it feels plush to me. When I rode up here before on this bike, I thought the suspension felt pretty good. It does a nice job. There's no issue with the suspension on this bike at all. Again, I wouldn't think, if I just jumped on this, you know what, this needs better suspension. It feels absolutely fine. I'll tell you what though, when you start to open the bike up, and this is Triumph's most sporty retro, it would be handy to have a quick shifter, so I'm looking forward to trying that on the RS in a second. So yeah, I think the addition of the quick shifter is a definite plus, but we'll find out how well that works. I've never used a quick shifter before on a Bonneville. In fact, it might be the first Bonneville to have one. So looking forward to trying that. Now along here, suspension feels good. Riding position is nice and comfortable. I've got no weight on my wrists really. I mean, at 60 miles an hour, the wind does hold you up a little bit. Really comfortable place to be. So again, that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting to try on the RS in a second. And this is just in road mode at the moment. Maybe I'll try that new sport mode out on the RS to see if that's appreciably any different. That's a change over the old outgoing speed twin, because the old speed twin, like I used to have, the 2019, that did have 3 riding modes, I'm pretty sure. Whereas now standard on this standard bike, you only get road and rain. The RS gives you the 3 riding modes. Alrighty, so I think I've got a good feel how the standard bike rides. I'm going to go and pick up the RS, ride around this same little loop, and do a direct comparison. Okay folks, I've literally just jumped off the standard bike and onto the RS, and this is definitely the best way to really get to understand the differences between bikes, if you can jump on directly off of one onto another, because you can immediately tell the differences. So let's go through them on here. First off, that riding position that I thought was going to be a problem on the RS, because Triumph say they've put the pegs further back, they've lowered the handlebars, they've raised the rear end, made it more sporty. Well, you know what, I can't tell any difference in the riding position whatsoever. It feels exactly the same as the standard bike to me. So that actually to me is good news, because I thought they might have spoilt it, but they haven't. The riding position is fine. Right, nothing behind me. You know, this is something, the brakes, something that is definitely an improvement on the RS. Now there is nothing wrong with the brakes on the standard bike at all, but these are noticeably sharper. The ABS kicks in quicker as well, but they're a lot sharper. Those Brembo calipers and the master cylinder has made the brakes better, there's no doubt about that, but they weren't bad on the other one. But yeah, that's a definite improvement. And then the other thing that is a huge improvement is this quick shifter. It's so nice to have a quick shifter on a speed twin. It works very well. For a twin, I thought it might be clunky,
But you know what? It's not. It's a nice job. Right, this is the bumpy suspension road, and the Öhlins rears very nice on here. But to be honest, I can't tell any difference in the suspension on the standard bike, which was also really nice. I would say this does handle a little bit better, which might be down to this riding position that I can't feel any difference with, and it might be down to the suspension, it might be down to the geometry changes in that the front is a little bit low, because it does seem to tip into the corners a little bit easier. The handling, now I'm not a great rider by any means, so I can't always tell the difference between these things, but this definitely handles a little bit better. I've also got this switched into that sport mode, which the standard bike didn't have, and it definitely feels a little bit more eager in sport mode. So if you're a sportier rider, then the RS is definitely the one for you. And I'm quite pleased actually, because I thought they might have taken away some of the essence of what made the Speed Twin so good by making this more sports focused and making the riding position horrible, but they haven't done that at all. If you told me they were identical riding positions, I would think they were. Yeah, that quick shifter, particularly the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth is great. First to second is a little bit of a clunk, but otherwise it's brilliant. Yeah, the handling on this is absolutely superb for a retro bike. Oh my god, you can have some fun on here. Again, I can't tell you whether I notice the difference with the tyres. All I can say is, yeah, this RS does handle nicer than the standard bike. It's not hugely so, we're not talking massive, we're talking, you know, 5-10% at most, but it is noticeably quicker in sport mode. All those things together, the suspension changes, yeah, tipping into the corners, definitely quicker turning. Yeah, it's definitely a bit more angry, the RS. 2,000 quid more though. Is it worth the extra? Let's go back to the garage and ponder that, shall we?
All right, let's answer that question then we posed at the start of the video, shall we? Is the RS worth 2,000 more than the standard bike, or is it just down to pub bragging rights? Well, as far as I'm concerned, even though I'm not a brilliant rider and things like tyre differences I can't necessarily tell, I absolutely think this is definitely worth £2 more, and if you can possibly afford it, go for the RS. For me, just the quick shifter alone, well, that's not worth £2, but it's an excellent quick shifter, an excellent addition, something you can't have on the standard bike, so that for me is worth a lot of money on this bike, because this is a bike that demanded a quick shifter for sure. Then of course you've got the adjustable suspension. Now again, I couldn't necessarily feel the difference on the road, but there's no doubt Öhlins suspension is worth a lot of money. When you're thinking of the £2 difference, that's where a lot of the price difference is. Styling differences, things like the metal mudguards may or may not be important to you, or the paint schemes, things like that. The extra riding mode does make a difference to this bike. So all round, I think, yes, it is worth £2 more. There's quite a lot extra that you get on the RS over the standard bike. Now, if you are on a budget, don't be downhearted, because the standard bike is an excellent bike. I used to have the 2019 Speed Twin, which I absolutely loved, but even the standard bike is way superior to that in terms of riding. You would not be disappointed with either of these bikes, but if you stretch to it, go for the RS.
So there you are, folks, that's my comparison of the standard Speed Twin 1200 against the 1200 RS. Now, I'm no special rider, I'm just a bog standard motorcycle enthusiast like you are. So if you are interested in the Speed Twin, by all means go out yourself and ride the two back to back. See if you agree with me. I'd be fascinated to see in the comments what you think. Right, that's it for now. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Mrs. and Fly. Cheerio. I tell you what, this bike is so much better than my old 2019. It's almost like a different bike. Well, it is, it's a completely different bike. It looks similar, but it rides so much better. Yeah, if you can afford it, get the RS. It's great. Stop recording.